Good morning, children. Welcome to our next class. In last class, you learned about terrestrial plants, different landforms and their uses, and what are the adaptations shown by the different plants which grow on terrestrial areas you learned, right? Here in block 3, you are learning about the plants which are growing in the water. So the plants which grow in water known as aquatic plants. So your block 3 dealing about aquatic plants. So what are the adaptations shown by these aquatic plants you are going to learn in block 3. Adaptation meaning you already know. You learnt in block 2 and how terrestrial plants are showing the adaptations you had seen. Here you are learning about the adaptations in aquatic plants. Before learning about this, we'll see the some keywords along with meanings you will read here, children. So the first word is AQUA, aqua, TIC, aquatic, PLANTS plants. Aquatic plants means plants that grow in water. Plants that grow in water known as aquatic plants. And the next word, floating plants. FLOATING, floating, PLANTS plants. Floating plants means plants that float on the surface of water. They grow, their parts of the plants can be seen on the surface. So such plants are known as floating plants. And fixed plants, FIXED, fixed, PLANTS plants. Fixed plants means whose roots are fixed in the soil. All these floating plants, fixed plants, submerged plants, all are growing in water only. But some plants' roots are fixed in the soil. Some plants' parts are just floating on the water. Some plants are totally growing under the water. So, here we will see in this lesson in block 3 especially what are the examples for these plants and what type of adaptations they are showing we'll see. Now the last keyword is MERGED, merged, submerged, PLANTS plants. Submerged plants means plants that grow completely under the water called as submerged plants. Now before understanding the adaptations of these all the plants, these all the meanings, we'll do one small activity, children. You look at the picture what I am showing to you and try to identify what are the different parts you are able to see here. First, can you identify what plant it is, what picture I am showing? Can you say the name of this plant? Yes, it is lotus plant. It's a lotus plant. You can see the lotus leaf and lotus flower here. Lotus flower can be seen, lotus leaf can be seen. But are you able to see the roots here? We are not able to see the roots at all because the roots are fixed under the soil. The lotus plant roots are fixed under the soil, but only the remaining parts of the plants are floating on the water. Are you understanding, children? So such type of plants are called fixed plants. What type of parts you are able to see, just write in your notebook, children. This is your activity. You need to write when I am showing the image to you. What are the parts you are able to see here? Just mention the parts. Okay. And now we will see the other plant. And here what are you able to see? Just see the part and before picture also once I'll show you. What are the different parts you are able to see? Just mention their names. So you are able to see here leaves. Leaves you are able to see and you are also able to see the flower. flower you are able to see, leaves you are able to see. But you are not able to see the roots. Are you able to see the roots in this plant? No, you are unable to find out the roots. What's the reason we will see? And you are able to, can you identify this plant which it is? This is lotus plant. So why you are not able to see the roots? I'll let you know after completing your activity. You can yourself can give me the answer. So next picture when I show, you try to identify what are the parts able to see here. You are able to see only the leaves. Here you are able to see only the leaves. Leaves are visible here. Only leaves are visible. And what about the roots? Are you able to see these roots? You couldn't find out the roots of these plants. This plant name is water hyacinth. So before picture also, even this plant is also living in the water, and the next picture, even this plant is also living in the water, but they are having some differences in them. Those differences you are going to understand in this chapter. First, you are just mention the parts which are visible to you. Okay, now we will see the third picture, and here you try to identify what are the different parts you are able to see. What parts you are able to see? This all completely water. The blue color is completely water. So are you able to identify any plant in this? Under the water only, this all the complete plant part is under the water. So you cannot identify any part completely inside the water. So when we look at this from above, we couldn't identify, we couldn't see any plant part. Okay, so this is your activity, children. What are the different parts you are able to see? Mention in your activity clearly. Now we will discuss what are the differences between these plants. We are going to discuss now in detail. Okay, so here I said that in this plant, I told you that only the leaves and the flower parts are visible clearly. Leaves and flower parts are visible. The roots are not visible very clearly because they are fixed inside the soil. That's why they are not visible for us clearly when we look at from the earth or from little far distance. We couldn't find out their roots because they are fixed in the soil. So such type of plants are known as fixed plants, whose roots are fixed in the soil and only the flower and leafy parts are visible outside. Such plants are known as fixed plants. So fixed plants, example, lotus plant. These all are aquatic plants only, no doubt. But only difference is some are fixed plants. Okay. They have stomata like how the terrestrial plants are having. You learnt that in terrestrial plants, plain areas, mountain areas, those all you learnt? No. How they are having stomata to take air inside and relieving outside, release the carbon dioxide outside. Same way, these leaves are also having stomata on the upper surface so that water does not block the pores. So they are also having stomata on their upper surface. A tiny openings on leaves called as stomata you learnt in previous lesson. So all these stomatas are present on the upper surface of the leaf. Down only this plant leaf down only water is there. so this water will not block the stomata at all, so that the leaf can take the air inside, oxygen inside, and it can take the CO2 inside and release the oxygen outside. So it can do respiration easily with the help of stomata. Understood, children? So these are called fixed plants. Okay, now we will see the other plant part, others, which parts are in this, which parts are visible, we'll see now. As we discussed, clearly visible parts are the leaves. Their leaves are floating, see. They are floating on water. They are floating on the water. So such plants are called floating plants. Floating plants. Their roots are very small. They are not fixed to the soil like lotus. In lotus, I told you just now, their roots are strongly fixed in the soil. But here, the roots are very small and not fixed in the soil. And there I also told you they are having fixed plants are having stomata on their upper surface. Generally, children, in terrestrial plants, the stomatas are more in lower surface of the leaf, down part of the leaf. But exception of this adaptation in aquatic plants like lotus, they are having stomatas more on their upper surface. Okay. Their leaves are very broad and flat. In fixed plants, one more adaptation this lotus plant is showing, their leaves are very broad. They have very broad leaves like terrestrial plants. And they are also having a waxy coating. Their leaves are having waxy coating so that water will not stagnate on this surface. When water gets stagnated here, the leaf may be rotten and get spoiled. But due to waxy coat, no water stagnation in the lotus plant. And their stem is having cavities. Those are called air cavities. Air cavities they have. These are also called adaptations of fixed plants. Lotus is a fixed plant. So the fixed plant adaptations are, one is having waxy coating, the other adaptation is having air cavities. And the third important adaptation is they are having stomatas on upper surface of the leaf. So they are called fixed plants. Like not only the lotus, even water lily. This is water lily only. Lotus will be little more bigger than this. Petals will be little more bigger. So water lily is one of the example for aquatic plants, one type of fixed plant. So fixed plants examples, lotus plant and also water lily plants. And you understood now what are the adaptations shown by the fixed plants. Clearly understood, right? Now we will see the other type of aquatic plant. Those are water hyacinth. This is one example of water hyacinth. Only the leaves can be seen. Their roots are not visible. Their leaves are floating on the water. That's why they are called floating plants. They are also called as floating plants. They have very small roots and their roots are not fixed in the soil like lotus and water lily. Okay, so they have light and spongy stems, very spongy stems. And spongy means they have air cavities. Their stem is also having air cavities like how lotus plant have Same way they too have floating plants are also having air cavities. Floating plants also have air cavities. Fixed plants are also having air cavities in their stem. So that is one permanent adaptation in aquatic plants. Right? Spongy, they appear spongy because of air cavities. And leaves filled with air, stem filled with air. These air cavities are only helping this plant to float on the water. Understood? So water hyacinth is a floating plant. And one more example for these floating plants are duckweed plant. Duckweed is also one of the example for floating plants. So now two types of aquatic plants you learned, children, and their adaptations you had seen. One is fixed plants. Second one is floating plants. And one more you have. And what are the features or what can be seen, which parts can be seen clearly, you just did in the activity. And you also found that you couldn't see any parts from outside because the plant is totally inside the water. That's why they are also called as submerged plants. They are known as submerged plants. They are merged inside the water. Their leaves, their flowers, everything is inside the water. And their leaves are narrow, thin and ribbon-like leaves they have. Very thin leaves like our mountain plants. Before lesson you learnt mountain plants leaves are needle shaped. Same way you can see their leaves very narrow and ribbon like leaves they have. Yes, these ribbon like leaves are helping them to withstand the water currents. So when which side the water is moving, to that side they can bend. That's why they are having very thin leaves because of this structure, and they can able to take the oxygen from the water directly. They are taking the oxygen from the water directly, they are utilizing, not from the air. The oxygen which is mixed in the water, that oxygen they are directly taking. And because of this, they do not have stomata like other leaves. How lotus leaf is having stomata, how terrestrial plants have stomatas. These leaves, submerged plants, are not having stomata. Stomata is absent in submerged plants. No stomata in submerged plants. Okay. Why they are not having submerged plant stomatas are not present in submerged plants? Because they can directly take the oxygen from water. That's the reason they do not have stomata in them. Understood, children? So these are the characters of different aquatic plants. Now you watch this video.
Aquatic plants live in or on water bodies. There are three types of aquatic plants. Floating plants have light and spongy stems and leaves. Fixed plants have roots that are fixed to the soil. Submerged plants have narrow leaves and are totally below the water level.
Understood? So how the fixed plants are having fixed roots, and how submerged plants do not have stomata, and how floating plants are floating on the water. You understood very well, children. Now you can see the pictures. given in your content book. See how beautiful pictures are given here. Yes, the same pictures. How fixed plant roots are fixed in the soil, you can see how they are fixed in the soil. Their roots are fixed in the soil, and only the flowery part and leaf parts can be seen up. And you can also see how small roots, floating plants are having very small roots. And see, there's submerged plants totally under the water, and their roots are very thin and ribbon, their leaves are thin and ribbon shaped. These all can be seen in this picture very clearly, children. And spongy stems they have, all the aquatic plants have spongy stem. Their stem is filled with air so that they are able to live in water. So that is one of the common adaptation in all the aquatic plants. Understood, children? Now in the same page you are having some practice questions. These questions we'll see now. So the first question, tick the aquatic plants. Some aquatic plants are here in the list. You have to identify them. So jasmine is an aquatic plant? No, not at all. That's a terrestrial plant. And water lily? Yes, it is aquatic plant and it is a fixed plant. And duckweed? Duckweed is also an aquatic plant and it comes under floating plant. And water hyacinth is also one of the aquatic plant and it is coming under water hyacinth is also floating plant. So you just tick those plants, children. And the next one, draw 3 types of aquatic plants in a pond. This you can write in your classwork. You cannot draw here. Space is very less. Write one feature each of the 3 types of aquatic plants. Explain how these features help the plants. Any one adaptation from 3 types of aquatic plants which I explained you just now. Write in this answer to in your classwork, children. And third question, write one reason why submerged plants are needed for an aquatic habitat. Why? Because they are not having stomata. Directly they are taking the oxygen or air from the water. That's why they are totally submerged. Understood, children? Now few questions which are given in your worksheet we'll see. So in your worksheet he is asking you tick the pictures of aquatic plants. Here also he is asking you to tick the aquatic plant. So the first one is the floating plant. Only the leaves are floating. So this is also an aquatic plant. And the next one is it's in a flower pot. So is it an aquatic plant? No, not at all. It's not an aquatic plant. Why? Because it's in a pot. So this is not the aquatic plant. This is aquatic and this is also floating on the water. Just now we discussed duckweed and water hyacinth. So this is also one of the aquatic plant. And the second question, write the differences between the 3 types of aquatic plants. Position in the water bodies. Floating plants where they will be only few parts, leaves and the flowers are floating. Okay, and in fixed plants only the leaves are floating. In submerged, no plant part is floating on the water. So that you have to write, children. Next one, adaptations of the plants. What adaptation shown by these plants? So floating plants, you know, their roots are fixed in the soil. That adaptation they are showing. And spongy stems, all these 3 types are having. And fixed plants, short roots. Fixed plants are having short roots and here the roots are fixed. Fixed roots in floating plants, fixed roots. In fixed plants, short roots. Submerged plants, ribbon like, narrow and ribbon like, very thin leaves. Narrow and ribbon like leaves. These are the three adaptations shown by the three different plants. Okay, children, so that neatly write in your book. And the last one, due to water pollution, the water plants in a pond died. How will this affect pond life? Definitely, if these water plants die, the animals which are living in this water plant, what in this pond, they will not get their food. So the animals also may die. And if the animals die, the plants will not get the carbon dioxide. They need carbon dioxide compulsory for their growth. Yes? So in this way, it affects the life in the pond. Understood, children? So nicely complete page number 18 practice questions and also page number 12 worksheet. Complete and forward it to me, children. Okay? Thank you.